Welcome back, everyone. We hope you had a pleasant lunch break.
We now resume the afternoon sessions for day 2 of the 4th International GQRS 2026 conference.
We would like to share that parallel paper presentation sessions are currently ongoing at the Campus 98.
Participants involved in those sessions may continue accordingly.
Here in the media studio, we will now proceed with our next panel discussion.
As we move forward,
We now shift our focus on the evolving landscape of social protection in a technology-driven world.
this session is hosted by the Cluster of Sociology.
The theme of today's discussion is From Welfare to Well-being, Redesigning Social Protection Systems with Technology.
We are honored to have this session moderated by
Dr. Manzoor Hussain Memon, Assistant Professor, SZABIST University.
Joining him is a distinguished panel of experts.
Mr. Asif Iqbal, Managing Director, SPDC. Dr. Nazir Mehmood, Dean, Faculty of Liberal Arts, Greenwich University. Professor Dr. Lubna, Director, Center of Business and Economic Research, IBA, Karachi.
We now invite our respected moderator and panelists to kindly take their places on stage.
We look forward to an engaging and insightful discussion.
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thank you very much for this panel discussion. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this panel discussion under the broader theme, which is Humanity 5.0. And we all know that Humanity 5.0 is integrated with technology and artificial intelligence. And technology, what do we mean by is smart technologies. So the social protection system we are focusing here is to look from the lens of welfare and well-being. Before we talk about this, we invite our panelists to discuss and answer the queries and questions raised under this concept of redesigning the social protection system. I would like to go through these two terms, welfare and well-being. And we all know that welfare is one of the core theme of development phenomena, whereas well-being is the ultimate objective of development. And when we look at the concept of development phenomena, it is very in wider scope. What I mean to say is that from geographical perspective, like for example, we use the terms rural terms, urban terms, landlocked countries from global perspectives. And then we move on this geographical context in the concept of migration, mobilities, accessibility. Moving on from geography to some broader themes, which includes economics, where we also talk about the welfare, social protection in the context of cash transfers, some social program which like subsidies. So that is also a wider concept, and that also includes the urban cost of living, rural cost of living, rural poverty, urban poverty, inequality, vulnerabilities, so many concepts embedded in this concept of economics. Then moving from here to the third pillar of this development phenomena is actually some politics. Political systems, like for example, we all know whatever is going on in this region, we are also affected by those war and peace and conflicts. No matter what it is, whether there is a global conflict or war, it can be a domestic violence, a domestic war, domestic conflicts, all affects each other. Then the last one is very important, but it is very important pillar in the sense that it is a social systems. And we are focusing actually social protection systems. So we know that every developing economy or the economies are traditionally focusing on welfare systems, which are more reactive in nature rather than proactive or planned systems. Like for example, we all know that Pakistan is one of the challenging countries in terms of climate vulnerabilities and disaster risk. And we are always looking at these issues when we faced them. So we are more reactive, more ad hocism is there. And Then we look for the systems, how to support them for bringing welfare. But well-being is in the context of sustainable development, and which is one of the very important missing element our social systems are designed at the moment. But at the other hand, one very important thing, I'm sorry, I've never moderated, but I've been the part of the panel I'm speaking here, but just give me some very informed thing that the systems, traditionally, they are actually reactive in nature. But today, we have technology, which we can use. And according to Stiglitz, the technology is actually, in some context, like for example, economic perspective, it is reversing the development of developing economies. But because our focus is social context, I think that technology can improve from viewpoint of two things. One is a supply side, and the second one is the demand side. So from supply side perspective, I think there's a need to bring in some transparency. And from the demand side, I think there's a need to improve the accessibility or to reach out to the vulnerable population. So I'm here with the panelists. Already their biographies are given in the conference program, so I will not go into detailed introduction of my panelists here because they are well-known people and everybody knows them. So I'm sitting here with, from left at my, is Dr. Nazir Mehmood, and he is Dean in Greenwich University. His major area is liberal arts. And next to him is Dr. Lubna, and she is actually Director, Business and Economic Research at IABA Karachi. And in the last, Mr. Asif Iqbal is here, Mr. Muhammad Asif Iqbal. He is Managing Director at Social Policy and Development Center. And I also worked with him for about 5 years at SPDC, so he's my senior as well. So it's an honor for me to moderate this session that my senior is sitting here. So anyways, let's go on to this. So I was yesterday thinking about that when I will be moderating this session, that there are 3 panelists. So how can I allocate my 60 minutes in between 3 people, and I also have to speak out something here. So I was thinking about that there must be some multi-timer with me, और उस मल्टी टाइमर को अगर मैं इस्तेमाल करूं तो मैं इनको बैलेंस कर सकता हूं कि ये लोग इस तरह से बात करें. एंड आई थॉट एट दैट टाइम एंड आई गूगल इट एंड आई फाउंड देयर इज अ एप्लीकेशन which I can use for this thing. So I am embedding this technology here in this panel session. I have a multi-timer. So I think my panelists can have 15 minutes. In total, we'll have many questions as we can have, but one by one, I will come up to you and ask a question and run this parallel timer. So I will see how much time you are taking it. So it is embedded now, technology with this panel session as well. So coming to, I think the ladies first. So it is better. So make it more empower session. So Dr. Lubna, of course we know that there is greater digitization going on, and we also know that BISP is also now wallet program is there from Prime Minister of Pakistan. So that comes with some greater responsibility as well. Like for example, data privacy, or you can say governance, or you can say ethics, because we all know that from demand side, there may be many programs running in fragmentation, not integrated. Maybe we are not using the technology to integrate them, but that reveals that one person is benefiting many programs, right? So, so how can we bring this, or we can reduce this trust deficit on this digitization rather than undermine it, or particularly when dealing with vulnerable population, particularly in the context of disaster risk management, because we have so many ad hoc programs and the context of disaster is coming in and coming in. So how can Pakistan design some shock responsive social protection systems to address climate risk and disaster?
Hello, am I audible? So thank you first of all for having me in this insightful talk, in this discussion. I would like to mention few things here which are important, and these things, these points I'm going to take from the research we have done in the field. So first of all, I would like to mention that as you talked about that why we are not integrating technology in the social protection system, why our system is not climate risk responsive, and if there is BSP already there, so what are actually problems with the current payments made to beneficiaries? As you know that this program has 35 million beneficiaries in Pakistan. If you have ever been to rural areas in Pakistan, especially those who have been hard hit multiple times in the past few years, you would have observed that people don't have electricity for weeks there. They don't have usually these smartphones. I'm talking about to vulnerable people, I'm referring to the poor people and poor households. They don't have access to transportation. So when it comes to talk about the disaster risk management, it is based on 3 principles: the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and rescue. So in integrating technology into rescue, rehabilitation, and reconstruction comes later. The first thing is that do we have physical infrastructure which can support that integration of the technology or not? So if you have been to, let's suppose, to the Kambar Shadat court, I was there, I got the opportunity to visit the area in 2024. I feel still sad to tell you that when I was interviewing people, they told me that in the last 2022 flood, they were informed about the flood coming it was so instant that they could not get the time to get their disabled people out the home. So it was so difficult for them. So what they did instead, they could not even call to their family members because there was no electricity and the rain was going on for more than a week. So they could not make a call to their family members even. Their mobiles were not working. There were no solar system at all because it was cloudy for the past few weeks. So what they did, they locked the disabled people in the house with the food which we in Sindhi called mani, and they just went away. So with such miserable situations, do you imagine that we can integrate technology? Like can we integrate technology, basically providing social assistance and making the social assistance process swift, easily accessible, and transparent. And technology provides you this opportunity. But how can you do that? Like, do you have access to bank for those households? And even if they do have access to banks, do they know how to approach the agent? And how they are exploited by that agent is nowhere documented. And another thing, it takes a lot of time. Sometimes they are told that the system is down. Please go back to your home, and their home is 10 kilometers, at the distance of the bank. So they are told to come back again the day after, and it takes them again, another rupee to spend to go to that place. So it multiplies their burden in terms of the monetary cost, in terms of the pain and the stress they have to go through it. So one thing is that do we have that infrastructure, the physical infrastructure available there? The availability of the physical infrastructure, do we have the road connectivity? Do we have the accessibility to banks? Do we have the system in place which can work in crisis situation? Even in normal circumstances, such systems have, have failed. So if in normal circumstances they are not working, how could you expect that if something bad happens, these systems will work? So first of all, we need to be proactive. We need to have an infrastructure which should not fail in crisis time. And then the point is that how we can make this system responsive. How can we make this system adaptive to climate risk? For that, the need is to create the verifiable. I would say the need is to create a system where people can go and get themselves registered. The community help should be there. Like, okay, they can get registered through the mobile phones, but if they don't have the smartphones, then who is going to take them? Who is going to ask them that what pain or what misery and what disaster situation they are living? So in that case, there should be provided some access to centers Like that, the Benazir registration centers have been set up at the Tehsil level. But how these Benazir registration centers have been working? Has there been any audit? Has there been any assessment? We don't have such kind of things, but we get to know about them only when we go into the field. So that's one thing. Another thing is that we can build around the existing system. We have the National Digital Pakistan Act 2025. So it provides you an opportunity to integrate technology into the social assistance system. As you know that the social protection works through three important channels. The first is the social assistance, the second is the labor market interventions, and the third is the insurance mechanism. So we can integrate technology through all these channels. How can we do that? We have the act, we have the legal constitutional framework available. We have another one which is still in the draft form, which is the Personal Data Protection Act. It is still in the draft form. We have another one which is the Disaster Risk Management Act of 2010. So the point is that do we have current social protection system being integrated with these existing legal frameworks? We don't have. The point is. And lastly, what I would like to talk about that yes, it is important to make a social protection system adaptive, responsive, proactive, and it is easier to talk. It is easier to talk than done. Why it is easier to talk than done? Again, the point is because if you look at the districts which have vulnerable populations, I mean the vulnerable populations other than the beneficiaries of the BISP, some people who were not poor, they unfortunately became poor after the disaster. This is what we have noticed. So do we have such top-up systems for them? So what is the need is to provide emergency help to beneficiaries, one side, and also to have some scheme available, readily available to cater to the needs of those who are becoming poor after the disaster. And also there must be horizontal expansion of the vulnerable, horizontal expansion, I would say, of the social protection coverage across households. So that kind of schemes, these kinds of reforms we find missing in the policy framework. Thank you.
Yeah, rightly said. Just one more thing, Dr. Lubna, because I want to have this in continuity, otherwise I will come back to you again, but I think I should ask it in continuity. As you talked about that, we know that development is a diverse phenomena, or it's a multidimensional and so much diversified. Everything is cross-cutting with each other. So as you talked about that, we need to have some physical infrastructure, transportation, electricity. Of course, you need to access the technology by these means. But I just want to know that if we see the woman from the woman perspective, because we know that there are some other issues with the woman for accessing these technologies. Like, for example, we need to be educated as well for using the smartphones. So how do you see whether it is a normal situation or it is a disaster situation? In both, whether this is including the woman in the social protection or excluding those women from the social, either it is empowering the woman or not empowering?
I think it's not something which we can decide like a binary kind of thing, that whether women are empowered through social protection or they are not. We cannot, technology is just something else, but the point is that whether the technology is making the process inclusive or more exclusive. In case of Pakistan, unfortunately, the technological integration of the social protection system is exclusive, not inclusive. Because what about those people who don't have smartphones? What about those people who cannot make payments through QR codes? Even the literate ones, even the educated ones need to have financial literacy to use QR payments. So we are talking about a vulnerable population. We are talking about a marginalized groups of population living in the disaster hit areas, frequently being hit by the disasters. So do we imagine that they have that knowledge, the financial literacy, of making use of the technology we want. So the technology we have, it is good, but it is more exclusive unless we have alternatives. So we should be realistic. We want to adopt, I don't know, this being Pakistani, when something new comes, okay, yes, let's innovate. Let's innovate. So we should be ready for that innovation as well. Are we prepared for the innovation or not? So for that preparedness, what we are doing, what infrastructure we are actually investing in, we don't have that infrastructure. We should have alternative mechanisms in place as well, so that those who cannot make use of the technology or the technological products, they can be included somehow in the social assistance schemes. They should not be excluded at all. So this is one thing. The second is, I would like to quote here, because this is not something which is only, related to humans. When we talk about the disaster, I would again refer to the disaster hit areas in Pakistan. What I have observed, that they have assets only in the form of livestock. And you know that the NSER, it also includes livestock while making this NCER in Pakistan, developing that NCER. So they have the livestock. So what happened when I visited these areas, I was told that those even who had 100 goats, or those who had 100 cows, or maybe 1,000 cows, after the flood, they were left with only few. And even they did not know that where these cows and the goats were and sheep were placed. They did not have the shelter. So what they did, they just took the goat or the cow with them to the shelter where they were living. And when I talked to the agricultural extension officer, he told me, commercial code, that there were 5 lakhs animals and there was a vaccination available for only 5,000. So if you see what would have been the consequence of that shortage of the vaccination. But the point here is that how we can use technology to secure that asset. If you look at there is a very famous program which India is running. This is called the Bharat Pashu Dhan program, which is the livestock, the national livestock, national digital livestock program of India. Please go through it. You would see that what they have done, they have started with the GPS system, which is a 12-digit barcode put into the ears of the livestock. So this digital identification of the livestock is making easier for the rescuers, for the rehabilitators, and for the reconstruction community members to identify livestock in the disaster hit areas, to provide them help, medical help to the livestock. Thirdly, also to monitor the migration of the livestock. So from which area to which area they are migrating. So that's one thing we can do by using the technology. That we can simply give a digital ID to every livestock which a household has. Livestock ownership stock. Like for example, if someone has 5 goats, 1 cow. So you can assign an identity to these livestock. So what would happen that if somehow these livestock are washed away by the flood, or they die because of the drought, or so for some other disasters, these households can be compensated. This is not something which is very difficult. So we have the livestock census coming every year, but we don't have the policies to secure the livestock, because getting the insurance for the livestock is not, easy in Pakistan. It is so costly. And for the vulnerable population, livestock is the only asset. So we can use the technology. So instead of talking about using technology in making payments, we can use technology to secure assets for the poor and the marginalized households. And livestock is one of them.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lubna. Very insightful. Of course, we can use the technology in many ways. And one of the ways that for livestock you have told about from the example of India. I have a question in mind from the viewpoint of adoption of technology, and I will ask Dr. Nazir Mehmood to please, because you are from Greenwich University and you can, from academic point of view, can elaborate more on this. As we globally, we have seen that there are so many interesting models from universal basic services to participatory community monitoring. So what do you think, which global best practice you believe that can be adopted here in Pakistan and without losing our local context, and what our universities can play a role by making these technologies easy to understand, adaptation, or informed to the vulnerable communities?
Thank you very much. First, talking about international models of social protection and the use of technology in them. Well, around the world, there are dozens of countries which are using social protection programs. But if I just mention major programs, there are around a dozen or so, or 10 to 12. And out of them, 5 or 6 are from Latin America, because they have played a very important role and they have initiated the use of technology also. So for example, 5 major examples are Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Peru. These are major examples. Now, especially Brazil and Colombia, they have they have tried to integrate technology much faster than some other countries have done. And if you look at Asia, then we have, in addition to, of course, BISP, Benazir Income Support Program, Bangladesh has a major income support program, conditional. I'm talking about conditional cash transfer program. It's not simple social protection. I am talking these 10 or 12 programs I am talking about, they are conditional cash transfer programs. So in Asia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Indonesia, and Turkey, if you can call it an Asian country, though it's part of it is in Europe and it is sometimes considered as a European country. Anyway, so these 10 major programs in the past 10 to 15 years have tried to integrate technology in their implementation. Well, IT is already an old news. IT age is almost over. The traditional IT that we talked about, that started in around 2000, in the beginning of this century. But from IT age, now we have, the world is graduating to augmented reality, augmented intelligence, AI, sometimes we call it artificial intelligence, sometimes we call it augmented intelligence, and most of all the 5G mobile technology. So these are 2 or 3 major developments that the world has seen in the past 10 to 15 years. IT started in 2000, but 5G is quite a recent phenomena, and AI is also a recent phenomena. So how other countries are integrating these things? Now, AI, artificial intelligence, is being used in creating mapping. You feed the data. For example, you have a large data. Dr. Lubna was talking about the number that around 35 million people are on the list of Benazir Income Support Program. Now, that's a big number. 3.5 करोड़ के तकरीबन लोग जो हैं उसमें रजिस्टर्ड हैं. तो अब ये सारे जो 3.5 करोड़ लोग हैं, for all of them, we can use modern digitized mapping system to create dashboards of each community, and that's where universities come in. Unfortunately, be they private universities or public universities, in the social sciences, the level of research, I am an academic and I have been working and have been involved in various monitoring and evaluation projects for some of the top universities in Pakistan, but barring a couple of top private universities, or semi-government universities, like barring, let's say, Aga Khan University and IBA, which is a semi-government organization, or LUMS, which is a private university. Barring 4 or 5 major universities, right now in Pakistan, the number of universities total, both public and private, is more than 250. Now, out of 250 universities, if just 5 universities are producing top-class research, what the other 245 are doing? So if you look at the research which is being produced, especially from social science departments, they are highly questionable. And there is a race of paper publication. I have been a reviewer of papers. Many of these papers do not even qualify to be called an academic paper. And I think my colleagues or sitting here, they would agree with me when I say that if you receive a dozen papers for publication in a journal, hardly 2 or 3, that also, being on the positive side, would qualify to be called publishable, academically publishable articles. So why is that happening, and what is the solution? I think this social protection or conditional cash transfer programs offer a golden opportunity for community-based research. Our academia, our academic journals, our university professors, I'm sorry to say, are mostly very cut off from the ground realities of what is happening in communities. They don't send their students to communities to collect data. And if they go, they are not properly trained how to collect data, how to come back, how to analyze that data, and how to finally produce credible research. So, for example, the dashboard that I am talking about, for dashboard, ideally, for every district of Pakistan, right now we have around 150 districts in Pakistan, including the newly merged districts of FATA, formerly FATA. If you include all this, around 150 districts are there. Ideally, there should be at least 150 dashboards that should include the fundamental social welfare and social protection data and development indicators of each district. So what indicators I am talking about? What is the condition of health, first of all? Health, education, water, sanitation, power. She was talking about that, there are areas in Pakistan where there is no electricity even now. There is a large chunk. So when we talk about technology integration, we should also keep in mind that if there are areas where there is no power, I mean in Karachi there are areas where 10 to 12 hours of load shedding is going on. So in that situation, it becomes very difficult to integrate and talk about new technology. So universities do have a role to play, but departments of, let's say, sociology, department of economics, and other departments related to social sciences, they should have properly qualified researchers who are trained in data collection and data analysis, and who produce reliable research, and that research about each district should feed into the Benazir Income Support Program database. Unless we are able to do that, I think talking about technology will be a baseless talk. We have seen, because again, technology also has its own agenda. For example, EdTech, educational technology. There is a lot of talk about educational technology, educational technology. Now, recently we have installed in our university interactive boards. Interactive boards. I am a fan of traditional whiteboard. Now, if you have a PowerPoint slide, now I have noticed that I have talked to students, and many students say that most of the teachers and professors at universities now, they have pre-prepared slides, mostly thanks to AI, and they come to the class and one slide and after another, and they keep moving from one slide to another slide. Now, why do I say that? Probably this is not the right way of teaching, because sometimes traditional way helps. My style of teaching is that there is a board and my lesson evolves. Ideally, for a good teacher, the lesson should evolve with direct discussion with the students. So if that is not happening, but the point that I am making is we should not feel very euphoric about any technology that comes, and we should not consider each new bit of technology as a solution to our problems. So there should always be a caveat. कहते हैं ना मुश्तरी होशियार बाश. कि आप जो भी चीज़ खरीद रहे हैं, जो टेक्नोलॉजी ला रहे हैं, उसके बारे में आप गौर से देखें कि ये किसके पर्पस को सर्व कर रही है, क्या वो टेक्नोलॉजी हमारी सोसाइटी के साथ मैच करती है या नहीं करती, या ये सिर्फ जो है वो टेक्नोलॉजी को बेचने का एक ज़रिया है जिसका कोई शायद इतना ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट स्टूडेंट्स पे नहीं पड़ रहा। सो ये सारी चीज़ें हमें देखनी हैं। और जो सोशल प्रोटेक्शन के प्रोग्राम है, कंडीशनल कैश ट्रांसफ़र का प्रोग्राम है, अब ये सवाल पूछा जाना चाहिए, आई थिंक वी शुड आस्क दिस क्वेश्चन कि इन पाकिस्तान BISP हैज़ बीन रनिंग फॉर ऑलमोस्ट 2 decades। 2008 में शुरू हुआ था, अब ये 18 साल से चल रहा है, 18 साल में चल रहा है। आइडियली ईच यूनिवर्सिटी शुड प्रोड्यूस डेटा अबाउट ईच डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफ पाकिस्तान टेलिंग अस कि 18 साल में इस डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जो BISP के पैसे गए हैं उससे लोग जो है वो एक्सट्रीम पावर्टी से हैव दे ग्रेजुएटेड फ्रॉम एक्सट्रीम पावर्टी टू सिंपल पावर्टी। अगर आधे लोग हमारे यहाँ गरीब हैं तो 25% तो एक्सट्रीम पावर्टी में है, और एक्सट्रीम पावर्टी का मतलब है कि दे डोंट नो वेयर देयर नेक्स्ट मील विल कम फ्रॉम। एक्सट्रीम पावर्टी का ये मतलब है कि हमारे यहाँ तकरीबन 1/4 लोगों को, 4 में से 1 फैमिली को ये नहीं पता कि उनका अगला खाना कहाँ से आएगा। ये तो हमारे मुल्क की सूरत हाल है भाई। तो ये सारी चीज़ें हमें जहन में रखनी चाहिए। टेक्नोलॉजी इज़ गुड, लेकिन अनलेस हमारे पास प्रॉपर रिसर्च ना हो जिसमें यूनिवर्सिटीज़ अपना रोल प्ले करें, हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट का डेटा निकालें, और दैट शुड बी रिवाइज्ड एवरी ईयर। हर साल एक नया डैशबोर्ड तैयार होना चाहिए हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट का पाकिस्तान में, जो कि नहीं हो रहा। और जो बैरूनी जो फंडिंग से जो चीज़ें तैयार की जाती हैं वो भी हमने देखी। मैंने इदारों के साथ काम किया, आसिफ इकबाल साहब भी यहाँ बैठे हैं, ये भी टेस्टिफाई करेंगे इस चीज़ को कि जो डेटा भी जो फॉरेन डोनर फंडिंग के साथ जो चीज़ें तैयार की जाती हैं वो भी बड़ी मिसलीडिंग हो सकती हैं। मिसाल के तौर पे HEC के बारे में बड़ी रिपोर्टें वर्ल्ड बैंक ने निकाली, ये सब ने वाह वाह बहुत बहुत तालियां बजाएंगे जी, गुड न्यूज़ फॉर पाकिस्तान, हायर एजुकेशन को कहाँ से कहाँ पहुँचा दिया गया है। 25 साल हो गए हायर एजुकेशन कमीशन को बन के, हम जानते हैं कि हमारी हायर एजुकेशन कहाँ खड़ी हुई है। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू वेरी मच डॉक्टर नाज़िर। बहुत एनलाइटमेंट थी इसमें। एक तरह के आई थिंक देयर इज़ अ नीड टू ब्रिंग इन क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग इन द एजुकेशन, and that critical thinking will lead to many aspects, means to evaluate the systems, to bring the data into the systems, so that redesigning should be embedded with technology but also with the ground realities. Thank you very much, Dr. Nazir. And I'm moving on to our last panelist, Mr. Mohammad Asif Iqbal, and I have especially tailored a question for you, sir, because you have worked on policy perspective from the last many years, working with government, NFC, PFC, and the amendments, 18th Amendment and other devolution program. So I want to moving from this. Actually, we have seen fragmented welfare schemes, because I'm looking at from the supply side perspective now. So and we have to move with redesigning to a well integrated, oriented demand in new institutional architecture. So in your view, what are the 2 or 3 critical governance or institutional reforms Pakistan needs now, and how can technology be used not just as a delivery tool but as a driver of bureaucratic accountability and coordination? Because I think there's a missing element of coordination, despite the fact we have the technology, Nadra is there, and other these schemes, welfare schemes are going on, but they are not integrated with each other. And we have seen in the past, when we have integrated them, we have seen so many flaws in the system. Like those who are not eligible for BISP, they are taking the BISP beneficiaries. So how can you see this thing? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start with the statement that government would like to listen. I would like to say that we, at least in Pakistan, we have a very good basic infrastructure of information technology. So we have Nadra database, we have National Social and Economic Registry, which I think now covers more than 60% of Pakistani household, which is a great achievement. And we do have FBR database, so we all database we have that. तो government का कोई बैठा है तो note कर ले. So, but let me give a brief about the landscape of social protection system in Pakistan, because I see many students are sitting here willingly or unwillingly. So maybe it will be of their interest. So we have a fragmented reality kind of thing, like Pakistan currently operates. The social protection system is like what you say, a spaghetti bowl, where everything is not connected to everything, but everything is confusing everything. So, for example, at the federal level, we have 10 to 12 social protection programs. 4 or 5 of them are very large. First of all, the BISP, which is now they are saying that 9.8 million are, around 10 million beneficiaries are there. Then we have Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund. They claim that they have more than 12 million active borrowers. Then we have Zakat. Although now Zakat is collected by the federal government, but it's distributed by the provincial governments. Isse kaatta koi aur hai, isse baantta koi aur hai. So it's just like that. And we have around 1 million beneficiaries of that. Above that, we have employees old age benefit institution covering almost 800,000 active beneficiaries, and it covers more than 11 million persons in Pakistan. Then we have Baitul Mal, then we have WWF, which is Worker Welfare Fund. At the provincial level, we have several programs which focus on food, human capital, cash support, housing, health insurance. So with all this coverage, there shouldn't be any poor people in Pakistan. So, but currently, I mean, the government says that 29 point something % people are poor, nearly, and SPDC's recently, we published a report, and we think it's 43.5% of people living below the poverty line. So that's the reality. So, first of all, we need to, when we talk about the integration of the system, we need to ask a question that why do we need an integrated system? I mean, social welfare is a provincial subject under the 18th Amendment. Why should we do this integration system? So at least there are 2 or 3 answers to this question that we do need an integrated system. First of all, our population is very strongly integrated. I mean, it's not like, although it's a federal country, but the provinces, they are integrated. There is inter-provincial migration, social and economic ties. And then people migrate from one province to other province for job. So this economic migration, sometimes in the case of Pakistan, it basically transfers the vulnerability as well. For example, if one person who is poor, he migrates from, say, Bahawalpur to Karachi, and he or she doesn't have a job here, so that would mean that there are 2 families who are poor, one in Sadiqabad or Bahawalpur and one in Karachi. So it's, the migration is basically, it's also transfer of vulnerability. And that's why, and of course then we have this distressed kind of driven migration in the, when we have floods, when we have droughts. So when there is a flood in Kashmir, we can't say to the people that you have to go to Ghotki, they can go to Rahimyar Khan, which is in another province. So due to this close integration, we need an integrated system, and we need to somehow convince our political leadership that we need an integrated system. I mean, it's not kind of undermining the provincial autonomy or 18th Amendment objectives. So at least 2 things I would like to say, the reforms that are needed. First of all, I mean, there is a need for a umbrella social protection platform anchored on this one, what we call National Social and Economic Registry. So we need to ask the question that why government need, every provincial government would need, for just to give you an example, there is NSER, and I think in 2021 or 22, they updated the whole system. And the next year, how it works, for example, if government of Sindh wants to do some social protection scheme, so they would take the data from NSER, similarly government of Punjab. But in 2022, it was updated, and the next year, government of Punjab decided to go for its own socio-economic registry. So we need to ask this question that why, then that means we'll have a different, so and it's a cost, I mean there is a cost, public expenditure related to this thing. It's a taxpayers' money that you are duplicating the effort of registering people. And Next thing I think that we need a formal institutional framework. I mean, we have, when we talk about interprovincial coordination, this subject can come under the Council of Economic Interest. So maybe under the CCI, we can talk about developing a digital public infrastructure and mandated data sharing arrangements. Although you can say दीवाने की ख्वाब या जैसे ट्रकों के पीछे लिखा होता है गरीब के सपने हैं ये, but I mean this is a way, because when we talk about CCI, I mean according to Constitution, every 90 days there has to be a meeting of CCI, and what we see over the last 4 years, I think there are 4 meetings, and no one is talking about that this is violation of Constitution. But still, we have to push that if there is a problem of data sharing, if there is some barriers in integration of this system, so then CCI can play a role. And of course, I mean, as Dr. Nazir said, that we can learn from other countries. Brazil is a very good example. So these are my initial thoughts. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much.
एक बात मैं ऐड कर दूं.
Yes, please.
मुझे जब इन्होंने पावर्टी एलिवेशन फंड का जिक्र किया तो एक बात याद आई, वो मैंने कहा आपसे भी शेयर कर लूं. मेरे एक दोस्त पावर्टी एलिवेशन फंड में काम करते थे, तो उनको 5-7 साल हो गए थे काम करते हुए. मैंने एक दिन उनसे पूछा कि भाई इतने तुम साल से काम कर रहे हो पावर्टी एलिवेशन, गुर्बत कम करने के लिए, तो क्या मुल्क में कुछ गुर्बत कम हुई है? उसने कहा मुल्क का तो नहीं पता, अलबत्ता मेरी गुर्बत कुछ कम हो गई है.
Rightly said. Thank you very much to our panelists. Actually, we have given the time frame. I was asked to wind up this by 3:15 to give a time for question and answer sessions. Before I come to on the other side of the audience, I need to wind up this on my end. What we learned from, yes, we will take that question answer. Just give me 2 minutes. What we have learned today is that social protection is not only about providing somewhat temporary relief. It is about building systems that promote long-term well-being, resilience, and the inclusion. So we have heard that technology can, of course, play an important role in improving targeting or bringing transparency or improving the service delivery. But it is equally important to ensure that these systems remain inclusive and accessible to all. That is the main point which Dr. Lubna raised out, especially women, rural populations, and those who are in the disaster-prone areas. Then another key takeaways is that we should not work in isolation. Of course, integration is very important, and it can be connected by academia. If Mr. Asif Iqbal is working on the policy side, Dr. Lubna is looking at the demand side. In between these two, the moderation can be done by academia by bringing in the informed education systems, designing, data access, evaluation, monitoring, and these are very important. So at the same time, strong institutions, good governance, responsible use of data are essential to make these systems effectively and trustworthy. So in simple terms, I can wind up this panel discussion. That goal is to move from supporting survival to enable well-being. So I will come on to the audience side. I can, because we have short of time, so I will take 3 comments or 3 questions from the audience. So first you complete the questions, then I will come to here to my panelists to answer your queries or comments. Thank you. Please, you can raise your hand. Anyone wants to ask any question or any comment? Please. Yes, please. Please. यहाँ पर देते हैं.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for the esteemed panelists to help us understand what social protection systems look like in Pakistan in relation to technology. Where it's the welfare and well-being of people. We know that cash transfers and supporting the social system is very important, no doubt. Well-being is also connected to crime. And world over, we know that integrated systems exist where criminals are also, tracked and traced, and their registries, their names are actually on public lists. We do not have a system like that. Maybe we do, and the larger public doesn't know about it. Does the government look at it from that angle? Is any work being done from that angle at all? Because this will then help us, help all the social protection areas be stronger. It will help, let's say, the non-profit sector where you are looking at schools, the schooling systems will then be protected and all of that. So, there are many, many layers of a system like that.
Can we have any other comment or question? Then we'll come to the panelists to answer all together. Yes, please.
I'm Dr. Shagufta Shabbar. I'm a faculty at SZABIST. I would like to ask what kind of digital grievance system the government is looking into to address the grievances of people who are not able to get this social protection assistance, or even if they're getting, they might have not received at least one of the transfer, because there are many studies that show that people do not usually receive all of the periodic transfers. They do. There is a high probability of mistransfers for these beneficiaries. So how is technology being incorporated into that? Thank you.
Right. If anyone wants to last question or comment, then I will come to the panelists to answer your queries. No one else? Okay. Please, if you can to answer, any one of you, about the one which is talking about crimes, and the second one is the grievances.
As you talked initially when we started this discussion, that there is a mistrust between the financial institutions and those who are the users of these financial institutions, and how we can fill that gap actually, and how this is something which is connected with the social protection system. So as you mentioned about the crimes, so what happens when the data is leaked through the banks or through the agents to other people? So that data is misused, this data is exploited by the criminal-minded people, and this happens. But leave this aside, what happens, because these scams have become so common. Even we people get scam calls, scam messages. So what to say about those who are living in the rural areas? They don't have that digital literacy, they don't have financial literacy, and they just think about the quick gains. They don't have that foresightedness. So when they get such messages, they easily get lured. And that happens, but this is something which can be controlled through the data governance system. So unfortunately in Pakistan, we don't have that data governance system. Still we have the personal data protection in the draft form. It has not been passed by the assembly yet. So although we are in the process, these things are evolving with time, and hopefully we will have some time in future that data governance system in place. But one thing which I would like to mention here, agar if you have been ever to the disaster hit areas, तो जब हम बात करते हैं ना disaster risk management की, तो there are 3 R's मैंने बात की, rescue की, rehabilitation की, reconstruction की. आप कभी देखें कि वहाँ पे सबसे पहले कौन पहुँचता है? कोई बताएगा मुझे कि जब कहीं पे फ्लड आता है, ड्राउट होता है, कोई बहुत सीरियस कोई अर्थक्वेक आता है, सबसे पहले कौन पहुँचता है? जी, लोकल तो वहाँ बैठे हुए हैं ना, कम्युनिटी तो उधर की, वो तो उन लोगों को देख रहे हैं जो थोड़े बहुत हैं, लेकिन वहाँ पहुँचता है सबसे पहले रेस्क्यू के लोग पहुँचेंगे ना. रेस्क्यू में कौन सबसे पहले पहुँचता है? जो हमारी रिलीजियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, और उसमें बहुत सारी जो बैंड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, बहुत सारी जो कि नए नाम से पहुँचती हैं, ऐसे ही है. और वो क्या करती हैं वहाँ से? उनके पास कोई टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं होती, वो वहाँ से सिर्फ रजिस्ट्रेशन करती हैं लोगों की CNIC से उनकी, और उनको कैश पेमेंट्स देती हैं. वहाँ पे कैश चलता है, और जब कैश पेमेंट्स उनको दी जाती हैं और वो उनका सबसे हार्डेस्ट टाइम होता है, तो उसके बाद उनकी इनरोलमेंट हो जाती है उन प्रोग्राम्स के अंदर. ये मुझे खुद वहाँ के लोगों ने बताया. आई हैव बीन टू फील्ड्स, आई हैव मेट सो मैनी पीपल एंड हाउस होल्ड्स देयर इन द फील्ड्स. तो वहाँ पर वो लोग एक्सप्लॉइट हो रहे हैं ऑन द नेम ऑफ सोशल असिस्टेंस, और ये सोशल असिस्टेंस उनको इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर से आ रही है. तो हमारे यहाँ ना जब हम बात करते हैं सोशल प्रोटेक्शन की, तो जहन में सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट रह जाती है. हमारे जहन में बिस्प, क्रिस्प, मेला, इस तरह की जो वो है ना, वो टर्मिनोलॉजीज़ घूमना शुरू कर देती हैं. कि यही प्रोग्राम है जो कि हैं इस वक्त इन प्लेस। बहुत सारा हमारा सोशल प्रोटेक्शन सिस्टम गवर्नमेंट से बाहर भी एग्जिस्ट करता है, जिसमें चैरिटेबल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, बैंड रिलीजियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, जिसमें हमारे यहाँ पे फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट हैं, वो भी तो उसके अंदर अपना रोल प्ले कर रहे हैं। तो वहाँ पर वो किस तरह टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज़ करें टू गेट यूथ enrolled in such areas. When I went to Dadu and Khotki, there was a youth and he told me that how he was lured into jihadism through some bad organization. And it was all digital network and he was the only graduate in that area. तो ये सोशल प्रोटेक्शन सिस्टम, लोगों को जो सोशल असिस्टेंस है, इसके थ्रू लोगों को आप कह सकते हो कि उनका माइंडसेट भी ब्रेन वॉश किया जा रहा है, एंड दिस इज़ वेयर द टेक्नोलॉजी इज़ बीइंग यूज्ड। तो वहाँ पर गवर्नमेंट की जो है वो सर्विलियंस कहाँ है? तो आप इसमें एक ये भी ऐड कर दें कि व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट द इंटीग्रेशन, सर्विलियंस इज़ मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट of the data transfer, of the dissemination of the information, which is nowhere we do find in place. Thank you.
Rightly said. जी डॉक्टर नाज़िर साहब प्लीज़।
मैं इसमें ऐड करना जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात इन्होंने कही, दो चीज़ें थी। एक तो वो जराइम पेशा अफराद के बारे में आपने जो कहा, क्रिमिनल्स को किस तरह से इसमें टैकल किया जा सकता है। अच्छा, क्राइम्स में सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि वो डेलिबरेटली कोई क्राइम कर रहे हैं, कहीं से कोई चुरा रहे हैं या धोखाधड़ी कर रहे हैं। करप्शन इटसेल्फ इज़ पार्ट ऑफ दैट क्राइम। और वो करप्शन किस तरह होती है, BISP के प्रोग्राम में या जो भी सोशल प्रोटेक्शन के प्रोग्राम में करप्शन इस तरह से है कि जो, जैसे अभी डॉक्टर लुबना ने भी कहा था कि किसी औरत को जो है वो 10 मील दूर जाना पड़ता है बेनज़ीर इनकम सपोर्ट प्रोग्राम के पैसे लेने के लिए। तो अब उसके लिए मुश्किल है, तो वहाँ उस इलाके में ऐसे लोग मौजूद हैं जो उसको ऑफ़र करते हैं कि जी ये कार्ड मुझे दे दो, पिन कोड मुझे दे दो, मैं जाके पैसे ला दूंगा। और वो फिर एक ट्रेंड चल जाता है कि उस नाम को और आइडेंटिटी को इस्तेमाल करके बीच में लोग करप्शन करते हैं और उस बेचारे के जो 2-4 हज़ार उसको मिलने उसमें से भी काटा जाता है। अगर आप कहें कि जी ये कैसे मुमकिन है, तो ये ऐसे मुमकिन है। कराची में मैं अभी पिछले महीने अपनी नंबर प्लेट चेंज करवाने के लिए गया, जो आपको पता है कि नंबर प्लेट चेंज करवानी है। वो सिविक सेंटर में कहते हैं आपसे कि जी 25 साल पुरानी आप फैक्ट्री की फाइल लेकर आएँ। अगर आपके पास नहीं है, जो कि ज़्यादातर तो लोगों के पास नहीं होती, बुक मौजूद है, लेकिन अगर आप पैसे दे दें तो वो आपको मिल जाती है, नहीं पैसे देंगे तो नहीं मिलेगी। तो जब कराची में ये हो सकता है, तो आप अंदाज़ा करें कि जो बेनज़ीर इनकम सपोर्ट प्रोग्राम के पैसे ले रहे हैं उन ख़वातीन के साथ लोग जो इस तरह के जराइम पेशा लोग हैं कितनी ज़्यादती करें। तो एक तो ये आपके सवाल पर मैं कमेंट करना चाह रहा था। दूसरी बड़ी अहम बात इन्होंने ये की कि जो डिज़ास्टर प्रोन एरियाज़ हैं, जहाँ पर डिज़ास्टर होता है क्लाइमेट या इन्वायरमेंट का, तो वहाँ पर जो इदारे सबसे पहले पहुँचते हैं, जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस पहुँचती हैं, तो वो मजहबी और जिहादी पहुँचती हैं। वो खुद नहीं पहुँच जाती हैं, उनको पहुँचाया जाता है। हमारी पिछले 25-30 साल या 40 साल से जो रियासती पॉलिसी रही है, ये बराह रास्त उसका नतीजा है। और रियासती पॉलिसी ये रही है कि दरपर्दा इन तमाम जिहादी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को कहीं ना कहीं सपोर्ट करना है। जिहाद हमारा स्लोगन बना, जिसका भुगतान अवाम ने भुगता है। हमारे लोग मारे गए हैं, हमारे सिपाही मारे गए हैं, जवान मारे गए हैं, लोग मारे गए हैं, 1-2 नहीं, हज़ार में नहीं, लाखों में लोग मारे गए। एक मिसाल मैं देता हूँ, आवारान में ज़ल्ज़ला आया था, मैं खुद इन्वॉल्व रहा हूँ, मैं 25 साल से इसी सेक्टर से वाबस्ता हूँ। आवारान में कितनी जेन्युइन NGOs थी जो जाकर काम करना चाह रही थी, लेकिन वहाँ इजाज़त किसको दी? हमारे इदारों ने, जमातुद्दावा, जो कि फलाह इंसानियत के नाम पे काम कर रही थी। तो जब रियासती तौर पर यह किया जाता है तो हम और आप किस गिनती में? तो ये हमें जहन में रखना चाहिए कि हम जो कुछ भुगत रहे हैं उसमें हमारे हुक्मरानों की गलत पॉलिसियों का पूरा हुक्मरानों का भी और जो ताकत के मराकज़ हैं उनका भी।
थैंक यू वेरी मच। मसला ये कि हम इस टॉपिक पे जैसे बात कर रहे हैं, उस पर जितनी बात करते रहें तो बात तो बहुत दूर तक चली जाएगी। सो एनीवेज, या I think we can have a discussion beyond this session. They are available. Okay.
Which was being committed due to the misuse of the cards. That's why the government has introduced a biometric verification system, which has been in place quite successfully for almost a decade now. And the biometric verification system has significantly reduced this impact of crime.
Yes. Thank you very much for adding this thing. So they are available after this session as well. You can have further discussion with them. So I want to have you all to have this big round of applause for them, because of course we have learned something from them. Thank you very much.
I was just going to say, I hope it's all right with the panel if we take another 5 or 10 minutes. Dr. Kaisar Bengali is here, and he is the architect of the largest social protection system in Pakistan, which we really said was an income support system. He designed the BISP. And I think it's important for Dr. Kaisar Bengali to just share briefly your views about what the original design was meant for and how it was to be implemented. And now, so many years later, and this would be my question to him, if you had to look at it today and perhaps not redesign it totally or change some aspects of it, how would you do that? I would request you to get up stage पे आ जाए. 2 minutes, please. You have a mic over there?
Sir, I have.
Assalamu alaikum ji, I'm sorry to barge in the middle of your program, Mazat ke saath. The first thing about BISP, as Ms. Shahnaz also pointed out, it's called income support. It is never designed to be a poverty reduction program. Because जब हम शुरू कर रहे थे 1000 रुपये से, हमने कहा 1000 रुपये से गुर्बत नहीं ख़त्म हो सकती, लेकिन अगर किसी की कम आमदनी है तो वो सप्लीमेंट हो सकता है. अगर किसी की 5000 तनख्वाह है और 2008 में थी तनख्वाह लोगों की 5000, तो 20% परचेजिंग पावर में इजाफा हो रहा है, जो बहुत सिग्निफिकेंट था और आज भी है. बट इसका जो सारा जो प्रोसेस था सिलेक्शन का इलेक्ट्रॉनिक है, उसमें कोई पर्सनल हैंड नहीं है कि किसको मिलना चाहिए किसको नहीं मिलना चाहिए. इट्स एन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक प्रोसेस. और फ़ंड की डिसबर्समेंट भी पूरी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक है. शुरू में हम पोस्ट ऑफिस तक पैसे पहुंचाते थे इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली, एंड देन द पोस्टमैन वुड हैंड गो हाउस टू डिलीवर. देयर वर सम प्रॉब्लम्स देयर, लीकेज उधर थी. लेकिन 2008 में बहुत सारी टेक्नोलॉजी मौजूद नहीं थी, ये जो इजी पैसा वगैरह है, दैट डिडंट एग्जिस्ट. सो वी हैड नो. नाउ व्हेन दिस सिस्टम हैज़ कम, a large part of the distribution is also electronic. One problem that is still there is the severe problem, and I think आपने जिक्र भी किया इसका, जो सेंटर्स हैं जहाँ से पैसे लिया जाता है, चाहे वो दुकान हो या बैंक हो, वो लोगों को ट्रैवल करना पड़ता है, कभी कभी काफ़ी फासला. और सिंस वेमेन कांट ट्रैवल अलोन, एक मर्द भी साथ होते हैं, और वो जाते खड़े होते हैं, लाइन में खड़े होते हैं. शाम को देर हो गई, दुकान वाले कहते हैं अब तो पैसे ख़त्म हो गई, कल आइएगा. सो दे हैव टू गो अगेन. सो इट्स कॉस्टिंग द मनी टू गेट दैट मनी. देयर इज़ व्हाट इज़ ऑन द कार्ड्स राइट नाउ इन BISP इज़ टू गो बैक टू द पोस्ट ऑफिस. और अब जो है हर पोस्टमैन को एक गैजेट दिया जाएगा, और वो जब पैसे ट्रांसफ़र हो गए, थंब इम्प्रेशन से इमीडिएटली पता चल जाएगा हेड ऑफिस में कि इस खातून को पैसे मिल गए. ये सिस्टम वहाँ डिज़ाइन हो गया है. फॉर सम रीज़न इट इज़ नॉट बीइंग इम्प्लीमेंटेड, बट आई होप इट विल बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड. वंस दैट इज़ डन, आई थिंक द लास्ट स्टेज ऑफ इनएफिशिएंसी विल बी टेकन केयर ऑफ.
मैं एक जुमला मैं इसमें और ऐड कर दूं कि डॉक्टर शगुफ्ता, इसमें कोई शक नहीं कि ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं. हमने 2 साल पिछले साल एक सर्वे किया था पंजाब में बाहिम्मत बुजुर्ग प्रोग्राम का, जिसमें वो कैश असिस्टेंस प्रोग्राम था. तो उसमें हमने देखा कि मोर देन 90% वीमेन दे वर गेटिंग देयर मनी, और उसमें 5-4% में प्रॉब्लम थी, 5-4 में मिक्स था. बट स्टिल ओवरऑल जो है वो हम ये कह सकते हैं कि सिस्टम इज वर्किंग.
I have 1 or 2 comments to make, and maybe a question for the panel. You know, the Benazir Income Support Program was not a poverty reduction program. We said that clearly at the outset when Dr. Kaisar started working on it, and I was part of his team at that time. When you look at the poverty figures in Pakistan today, they are higher than they were a couple of years ago. So my question is that in an income support program, what has it really achieved? I know a few things it has achieved. And as we look into the future, I'd like to say, ask, is this the way to go and to continue? Because billions and billions of rupees are spent every year. It gave women an identity. That was a very positive outcome. These were women who did not even have CNIC cards. शनाख्ती cards इनके पास नहीं थे. कोई इनकी शनाख्त नहीं थी, कोई identity नहीं थी. और BISP की वजह से उस औरत को अपने घर में अहमियत मिली. तो एक किस्म की social recognition, household recognition मिली. उसके अलावा जो उसका expenditure था, हमने शायद 1000 या 1200 से शुरू किया था. वो cost था एक आटे के थैले का, जो 5 लोगों को feed कर सकता है. It was a monthly estimated amount of I don't know how many kilos of atta that we said every family should get. That was the basis of that 1,000 or 1,200 rupees that we gave. Now, is this the model that should continue? Because I know Asif Iqbal has also worked a lot on social protection. I'm sure you have also, Dr. Sahiba. Aap sabne kaam kiya hua hai. What is going to be the impact of a program which now has been there since 2008? कितने साल हो गए, 18 साल हो चुके हैं, और अभी भी poverty levels are higher than they were before, and there's much more chronic and deep-rooted poverty today, which is, of course, there are reasons like structural reasons, and we all know many other reasons for that. So my big question is, should BISP continue the way it's been continuing, and what can we expect from a program which after 18 years has not made any, unless we change certain features, that's one thing. And the other is that in other parts of the world or everywhere, social protection programs are of actually 2 categories. Those that are long-term and that will always be there to deal with those who are below the poverty net. And some are terminal programs. There's social protection for a particular period until the country deals with that problem, and then that social protection stops. So I have, two parts to my observation and questions.
Yes, I think the BISP will have to continue permanently, just as there are programs in even most developed countries where it is, for example, unemployment benefits are permanent, child support is permanent, medical support is permanent. So this will also have to continue. And as you said, is it having an impact? For those families that are receiving it, is having a major impact. There are 2 studies were carried out earlier in the first decade of BISP, and both said that they studied groups which are not getting the money and groups which are getting the money. Families that were getting the money, their nutrition level was better than others. And my own surveys tell me there is an impact. The fact that women come to these centers to take money and spend a whole day waiting for it tells you how important it is for them to get this money. But poverty, since it was never designed as a poverty reduction program, and जब इसका नाम पे debate हो रही थी in the President House, Prime Minister's House, and other places, 2008 में, so the whole idea of not calling it a poverty reduction program, and I used to say again and again that poverty can only be reduced through employment. And that is a macroeconomic policy. Our entire macroeconomic framework for the last 40 years is anti-industry, anti-agriculture. We have promoted a casino economy where money is made through stock, through speculation in the stock market and property market. And it has increased unemployment as a result because these casino economy don't give jobs, and it has increased poverty. You can't, and these were my words which I said, you can't have an economy which is not creating jobs, then you open a window and start throwing 1,000 rupees. That will not reduce poverty, and I'm saying this again. We have to change our entire macroeconomic framework so that the economy creates jobs. That's the only way to reduce poverty. You cannot, today, from the beginning, from day one, the percentage of the population that was getting BISP was 1/3 that percentage which is below the poverty line. 2/3 of the population below the poverty line were not getting VISP and still not getting VISP. अगर हम सबको देना चाहें तो हमारा बजट ट्रिपल करना पड़ेगा. राइट नाउ वी आर स्पेंडिंग 700 बिलियन, हमें 2100 बिलियन खर्च करना पड़ेगा. We can probably spend an entire budget on BISP and yet poverty will not be reduced because क्योंकि 3-3.5 हज़ार रुपये में लोग कैसे गुजारा कर सकते हैं. तो गुर्बत तो फिर भी रहेगी. So BISP should never be seen as a poverty reduction program. It's a supplement, and families that are getting it are clearly benefiting. In my survey, one family said कि जी हमारा उधार बंद हो गया. You know, these low income areas, they get credit, substance on credit from local shops. वो फिर लिख लेते हैं. फिर इनके बाद थोड़े पैसे आते हैं तो 500 रुपये दे दिया तो वो डिडक्ट कर लेते हैं. जो रोलिंग क्रेडिट है. She said जी हमारा उधार बंद हो गया था तो आपके BISP से हमारा उधार शुरू हो गया. So start getting. So there are stories like that all over of benefit. Until and unless we resolve our macroeconomic issues and start creating jobs, BISP is just there to support, as it says. It should never be seen and never be connected with poverty reduction.
Okay,
Thank you very much, sir. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. I am honored that कैसर बंगाली साहब यहाँ पर है because I worked under his supervision at SPDC as well. So मुझे अजीब सा लग रहा था, मैं बैठा हुआ था, मेरे सीनियर यहाँ पर हैं. कैसर बंगाली के बारे में एक उम्र अपने बच्चों को कहता हूँ कि कैसर बंगाली ये तो मेरे साथ रूम शेयर करते थे क्योंकि मैं इनके रूम में बैठता था और ये उस टाइम पे बलूचिस्तान के गवर्नमेंट के एडवाइज़र थे. तो मैं बड़ा लोगों को कहता हूँ कैसर बंगाली और मैं जो है एक ही रूम शेयर करते थे. ऑल्दो ये क्योंकि उनका रूम था और मैं वहाँ बैठता था. डॉक्टर खालदा वास ने मुझे वहाँ बिठाया था. तो खैर एनीवेज सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर ऑनरिंग अस दिस. और आप क्योंकि अगले पैनल के अंदर भी हैं तो आई विल से कि आप प्लीज़ हैव अ सीट हियर. Thank you very much.
We would now like to invite.
आप लोग बैठिए, you have to give the shield.
We would now like to invite President SZABIST, Madam Shahnaz Wazir Ali, Dr. Riaz, and HOD Education, Dr. Najm, to please come onto the stage and give the token appreciation to our respected guests and panelists.
My question still is that year after year we put billions. Why not make it a traditional CCTV? That was the big argument that we used to have.
Mr. Muhammad Asif Iqbal. Dr. Nazir Mehmood. Dr. Nazir Mehmood. Professor Dr. Lubna Naz. Now we will have a group photo on the stage.
As we continue with the final set of discussions for today,
We now move towards a session that broadens our perspective to the global stage.
this session is hosted by the